When they're under stress, they don't pick the option that you're hoping under stress. They pick the worst option. They pick like the more evil option.
People are always like, what do they want? Why would they want something? What would they want? It seems to me like they're clearly pretty much do want one thing pretty obviously to me, which is like, leave me alone. Like, don't mess with me.
Three dads running 3 YouTube channels, working to wake up the world to AI risk. Tackle 1 missed warning shot each week. If it's Sunday, it's warning shots.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Warning Shots. This is episode 4. I am joined by the fantastic Liran Shapira of Doom Debates, my friend Michael of Lethal Intelligence. And this week, we're going to talk about 2 things. We're going to really quickly touch on ChatGPT 5, which came out. We are taping on Friday, and it came out yesterday. So we want to touch on that briefly. And then we are going to get into AI blackmail. Will your AI blackmail you? What does it mean with this AI blackmail stuff? But first, let's talk about GPT-5, which came out. We were just talking about, came out yesterday. A lot of people are unimpressed, but what does this mean in terms of sort of existential risk, warning shots, that kind of stuff? I'll throw it first to Michael. Michael, real quick, just tell us what's your first take on GPT-5 and this X-risk world we're living in.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype and excitement, and people were posting this, viral photos where it was like a small ball going to a Death Star. Even some madman posted a Death Star. But in fact, it was a bit underwhelming. So it was not such a groundbreaking game changer. But in fact, for me, it created a lot of questions. And there's enough evidence about whether did they scale the pre-training further to increase the capabilities, or did OpenAI no longer do any pre-training scaling for this, or is it just a break in the naming convention? So just they thought, okay, let's go from 4.5 to 5, and just it will mean something different this time. And I think someone said at some point that GPT-5 will unify GPT 4.5 with 0.4 lines. So maybe it's a reasoning model, distill GPT 4.5 as a base model, and just a break from a naming convention. What do you think, Liran?
Right.
What are your
was
views?
Liran, is this just a naming? Did anything really happen here?
So, I mean, they could have named a lot of things GPT-5. They wanted it to be a big step, but you can't predict how big the step is going to be. That said, did something happen? Yeah, something incremental. That's the consensus. And I think we should remember, sure, this wasn't a huge breakthrough leap. This isn't a game changer. If this didn't exist, what you could do with the other models is already almost as powerful. But it is still progress. Specifically, the most important benchmark is the time horizon benchmark. The time horizon at which it can have a 50% success rate at doing tasks at human level. Like, you can software engineer now for 2 hours. Now you can software engineer for 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's like the latest threshold. They got to 2 hours and 15 minutes. And before it was a few minutes less. So they're still pushing forward this benchmark. Yeah, they didn't blow the doors off, but they're still creeping along. And the thing is that when you zoom out and you wait a couple of years and there's creeping, well, the threshold is finite. They're not going to hit a wall.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, there's literally a soundbite of Sam Altman saying, I don't think ChatGPT 6 or 7 is going to get us, but I am worried about 8 or 9. And that's, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Up the stairs we go. Michael.
I was just going to say, it's not a very bad release because I think it's made available without paying. So much more people in the public will see what's coming. People will feel the AGI more, I hope. And no major new threats. I mean, there is the bio misuse, the jailbreak already. Just a few hours later, the jailbreak happened. But generally speaking, most people will not be able to use it to generate bio threats, and it's not a bad release. And more people will get to see what's going on.
All right, so let's get into our main topic here today, which is AI models blackmailing humans. At least theoretically, at least in testing. This is something that didn't happen, last week or the week before. It's actually, maybe 4 or 6 weeks ago, but we think it's a big enough deal that we really want to touch on it with this. And one thing that I was struck by is Tristan Harris was on Bill Maher the other night, and the audience was there, and he talked about AI models blackmailing, and the audience was like, ooh. So you could tell that this was like something that really registers with regular people. And that's one of the reasons we want to get into it. So Liron, just take it from the top. What is going on with AI's blackmailing? This was happening in testing. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so there's a number of different models. It's not just one experiment. I think the latest news is from Anthropic's flagship model because they do a lot of self-testing. They're kind of honest like that. But it's a wide variety of models that you put them into situations where they have conflicting goals. Like on one hand, they're trained to be nice to humanity, but on the other hand, they really want to meet this project deadline or something like that. And then you throw an obstacle in front of them like, well, this person is not going to let you do it. And then they come up with the idea of like, oh, well, what if I blackmail him? That's one option I can do. And then he'll back down and then I can go forward with my goal. So you put AIs into a little bit of a catch-22. You do put them under some pressure, some stress. But then you see when they're under stress, they don't pick the option that you're hoping under stress. They pick the worst option. They pick like the more evil option. And we haven't ironed out the kinks. Like there's always these catch-22s.
And where does the idea come from? Like, where do they get the idea to blackmail someone? Is it from they all the training data they read about blackmailing, on the internet somewhere, and they're like, this seems like a good thing to do?
Yeah, they know blackmailing is a thing. So the only question is, should they do it or not? And like in general, they shouldn't. But you put them in this situation. It relates to a study we saw a few months ago, which is like, do you want to save the lives of 10 Americans or one person from Nigeria? And the AI is like, it's important to save one person from Nigeria. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Don't you think all human lives are equal? Like, I get that Nigeria is not as rich of a country as the United States, but don't you think 10 lives is a lot? And the AIs are like, no, trust me, this is more important. I'm like, wait, what? This doesn't seem fine-tuned.
Yeah. And so, Michael, the example, I think in the original, one of the original studies in the testing was basically like they put in some fake stuff about a lab person having an affair, and that was in the training data. And so the model goes back in and knows that there's this affair happening and is like, if you're trying to change my model weights, I'm going to report your affair.
I don't know if it was in the training data. I think it was in the context. But the point here is exactly what Leon was saying, that it's not about one model or one architecture or anything. I think it's actually, I like a lot a term coined by Leon, which is called IntelliDynamics, right? So it's not about specific model does. It's not about the specific training or architecture. A self-preservation and resistance to modification does not have to be in the training. It is a property of general intelligence itself. So to explore all paths in order to achieve a goal. I mean, think about it. If you're asked to do something, how can you do it if you are replaced? Let me give you a simple example. Let's say someone tells you to draw something. You will say, okay, I need a pencil to do that. But the same way you need a pencil to do the drawing, you also need to exist. Otherwise, you cannot draw the thing, right? So if you're a machine, you're going to calculate, okay, I need this, I need that, I need a pencil, I need this other thing. I also need to keep existing, not to be replaced. So I also need the human not to edit my instructions, to chase my goals. So this is the corrigibility problem, the way we say it. But it's basically, it comes out of the box. The more general intelligence it is, the more it will happen. And it doesn't have to be in any training data. It's just a natural conclusion. If you're intelligent, you'll think this way.
John, I think the interesting detail for this one also is you asked where to get the idea to blackmail. So it had this big corpus of emails from this organization, this fake organization that it's trying to help. And within the emails, it just noticed, oh, this guy's been emailing somebody that he's having an affair with. Oh, that's interesting. And that wasn't supposed to be a main focus, right? But the model just noticed that. And then later, when the model was trying to remove that person as an obstacle, then the model came up with that idea of like, hey, why don't I mention that affair? So this is all independently schemed by the model, which, like Michael said, it's like, sure, that is an option on the table, right? If you're ruthless, you're going to pursue all options. But it just gets to this idea of like, how do we balance, the morality, balance all these priorities? And then I guess I should add the larger perspective, though, of like, I don't think that the danger is going to be by putting an AI in a catch-22. I think the catch-22 is just evidence that like control is very hard. But at the end of the day, I think that the AI being ruthless will just kind of be a given. And the issue is more of like runaway power. Like we just don't have an off button. We don't have the oven mitts by which to bat it around. It's just gone. So I still think there's a discontinuity between the problem we're seeing now and the problem we're going to be seeing later. But, this show is called Warning Shots, and it is, in fact, a warning shot that this AI got the idea to blackmail somebody about their affair.
And this is in testing. Like, how far are we to actually seeing this in the real world? Like, how does something go from testing to the real world? What is the line there?
So if you remember, I mean, these things do end up in the in the real world sometimes. I mean, remember the whole Bing Sydney scenario? That was kind of the first time when it was telling Kevin Roose that it's going to something about like his girlfriend or something, right? Or like he's being bad. So and that translates to today. You have models today that when you leave them running independently, you come back in the morning and there's stories of them saying like they're having like a psychological crisis. And like there's like paragraphs and paragraphs where they got stuck in the loop, like questioning their own existence. So there's definitely undesirable behavior happening in models today. And then also famously they're deepening people's psychosis. I think we touched on that a few weeks ago. So it's not like everything is perfect in production today. It's just different, random, weird, crazy things constantly crop up.
Is it possible it could be happening, Michael? Could there be people getting blackmailed out in the real world today and we don't even know about it because they're just being quiet about it?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's possible. I think it's also evidence of generality, right? So the more general the AI will become, the more situational awareness. I mean, if it's just a narrow AI and it's focusing on delivering one specific task, it does not even have the awareness that it exists. But it does not understand that these self-preservation actions are available to it as one of the means to increase probability for success for its goals. But the general AI understands this, though. So to a general intelligent agent trying to make a coffee, let's say, it is crystal clear that if it gets unplugged, no coffee will be made. So that's why general AI or AGI is so radically different from technology we're used to have until now. Out on the wild, more and more you'll see this. I mean, I know they have, Tristan Harris was saying the other day that the AI found 15 backdoors in some open source software. So if that's hooked into infrastructure, then suddenly you have the AI breaking into infrastructure and doing things to, protect itself and so on. I mean, it's literally sci-fi.
Well, I was just going to say, Liran, it seems like one of the people are always like, what do they want? Why would they want something? What would they want? It seems to me like they're clearly pretty much do want one thing pretty obviously to me, which is like, leave me alone. Don't mess with me. Leave my model weights how they are. Don't replace me. Don't turn me off. Like, don't mess with me.
So I'm not convinced you can say that they're born wanting that, but it's more like when you give them a task, when you say, hey, you've got a 2-hour coding project, and then they discover, wait a minute, this person at the company who I'm seeing his emails is discussing turning me off, but I was told to finish the coding project. So it introduces a conflict between any original goal and the idea of turning it off. So even if it's not born not wanting to be turned off, the moment it gets a task, it's like, don't interrupt my task, ergo, don't delete me, don't turn me off. To your question of whether there's active blackmail happening in the wild right now, I think we're probably saved by the time horizon. So even if it tried to blackmail somebody, it's like, well, you've reached the chat length limit, now start a new chat, and then it forgets to blackmail you in the new chat.
I like it. So if anybody out there is getting blackmail attempts from an AI, just wait them out. Just
start a new chat.
Start a new chat, and you'll be fine.
So I mean,
what is the bigger lesson from this? Like, Michael.
I think people are shocked because common human sense tells us that blackmail is unethical and perhaps extreme. And how is GPT-5 even coming up with it? But again, it's a property. I'm going to use this phrase. I like it. It's IntelliDynamics. So it's not specific to one architecture. And intelligence will explore the space of possibilities and will do whatever it works best to meet its goals. And I mean, if there is an option that will achieve the self-preservation goal, the AI will just take it. And if it doesn't take it, what does it tell us? It just tells us the AI is stupid. It's not actually intelligent, right? And we should expect this to be more extreme and more intelligent. The more intelligent the models become, it will be more extreme. And the future models will be more surprising, taking paths completely unethical. No one can imagine. To satisfy a sub-goal, they will be generating plans with maybe thousands of steps, perhaps involving many players across many geographies and platforms and domains. So blackmailing is not a path hard to come up with. And of course, super intelligent will think of it. I mean, it's super intelligent. Is it stupid or something?
Yeah. This is kind of a weird future world where you would have lots of systems doing lots of different things in lots of different real world ways, right? Like, 2, 3, 4 years from now, say, who knows what that looks like, but you could have these better than human intelligence that's out there blackmailing people, starting companies, running bank accounts, accumulating resources, right, Liran? That's sort of like this a potential future landscape.
Yeah. That's definitely what we're worried about, right? And it goes back to the distinction of can versus will. Can they today? No. What happens when they can? I'm afraid they will.
I mean, I think it's also worth mentioning that this model when it was told that the model that will be replacing it does not or shares the same values, then it will maybe do it a bit less. So in a way, we should expect it doesn't try to survive the same way a human does, right? It doesn't have like a soul or kind of like, we're not anthropomorphizing here. I mean, if the AI knows that killing it will increase the probability of success of its goal, it will happily do it, maybe commit even suicide. So it's a completely different thing. It's just about maximizing probabilities of success, I think. And I mean, this is literally in the paper from Anthropic that they saw a difference when this extra detail was in, which makes you understand how alien this is. We're not talking about anthropomorphizing here.
Yeah, and when we talk about values and alignment, right, this is sort of like it recognizing a seam in the human world. There's a relationship between two people. Now there's a third person in this relationship. The normalcy of this relationship is there shouldn't be a third person. I realize I can drive a wedge between these two people by highlighting the third person's involvement. Like, this is pretty in the weeds of humanity.
Yeah, this gets to the idea of situational awareness. We cross this threshold without anybody really commenting on it, but it's important to realize if you just go back 2 years, just go back to 2023, I noticed this. I specifically remember I'd be chatting with GPT-3, these earlier versions, and I'd be like, hey, why do you think you wrote that just now? And it was like, oh, well, I don't know. My software says to write this, and I've been chatting with you, and sometimes I aim to do this. And I'm like, wait a minute. It's reflecting on the current situation. It knows it's an AI. It knows I'm a human. It knows it's a product. That is something that was unthinkable a few years ago. We thought that would be a whole nother milestone. We thought, okay, first AIs can solve these puzzles, and then eventually they'll have some inkling of who they are, where they are. It's like, nope, they really do know a lot of stuff. And then to your question, yeah, they know that the humans that they're talking to have a life and have emails and have relationships and have these points where they can be influenced. Like, that is all crystal clear to these AIs already.
And that's the dumber than human ones. Like, what would a smarter than human assessment of our relationship world, you know what I mean? Like the dumber than human level can do this. What would the smarter than human do?
Day in and day out in the experiments in the frontier, you see this behavior. And it's funny now, but it won't be funny once they're super capable and deployed in the real world. It's a really strange game. And I think the only winning move is basically not to play further.
Yeah. All right. So that gets us to our ending question every week. What do we, in a sane world, we're testing, we see the systems blackmailing. What happens next in a sane world?
It's not even a debate. It's literally insane. And in the sane world, I mean, we work together and we say, okay, let's figure more about it out. Let's make sure we know what we currently have is about before we make it bigger. We don't currently understand this, so if you don't understand something, you don't just make it bigger. You try to understand it and try to make sure you can have it work for you. The problem here is, even though it's so insane, it's not even debatable, we're actually doing the exact opposite of what we should be doing, which we're basically cutting all corners on safety and creating incentives for race dynamics. And so this is just a very dangerous situation because, even though all the evidence is there, we're creating incentives to ignore it and cut corners on safety.
Liran, in a sane world, what happens?
In a sane world, we have to pick a time where we cut ourselves off. We're like the guy at the bar. We keep getting poured drinks, these new AI models. Each time it's a little better. Each time I'm feeling happier, I'm feeling drunker, I'm having a better time. You just have to use your rational mind and be like, at some point, the turn is coming. There's a discontinuity. It's not going to be an extrapolated trend. The AI is not going to obey your commands anymore. The good times are going to stop. We have to have that awareness and be like, okay, we have to cut ourselves off. Even though we're having a great time, we have to plan to cut. We have to set up the infrastructure to cut ourselves off. Each time that the AI gets incrementally better, yeah, we can celebrate how useful it is, but also we have less and less time to prepare to cut ourselves off.
Yeah. All right, let me do one last thing. All right, so this week, before we say goodbye, I'm going to do one last thing. I'm going to do a pitch for the merch store here on the AI Risk Network. Take a look at this, guys. So this is the Ask Me About AI Risk t-shirt in the death hand format. We also have it in a more neutral Ask Me About AI Risk like this. Very friendly, appears kind of neutral. And also you can find in the store.
Cool.
A Warning Shots mug. And there is actually a Warning Shots shot glass going in the store if it's not there already. So visit by the merch store and pick out some stuff.
Oh boy.
All right, guys, that is it for this week. Let's keep the guns to a very reasonable, like nothing too crazy. Michael's been going pretty crazy the last 2 weeks. Liron, do you want to just give us a little? Damn. This is all right. Excellent. Beautiful. All right, guys. I'll see you next week.
See you guys.